brain fog, low energy, belly fat that won't move no matter what you do. If you struggle with one of these, or perhaps even more, you might be insulin resistant and you don't even know. And in today's video, you're going to understand exactly what's happening in your body, why that is happening, and I'm going to give you a process on how to reverse insulin resistance, improve all of this that I just told you, which is brain fog, low energy, perhaps low libido, or simply you're trying to get rid of the belly fat and you cannot get rid of it no matter what you do. And first of all, just a brief introduction about insulin. What is insulin and why is it so important? These 5 things that I'm going to tell you, because as you're going to see, this is not fitness advice. This is not bro advice of move more and eat less, or it's just calories in, calories out, or do more cardio and cut carbs. As you're going to see, that is far from the advice that I'm going to give you. And unfortunately, most of the fitness industry is just telling you that move more, eat less, cut carbs, do more cardio, and you're stuck. You still struggle with the belly fat, with the energy crash, with the brain fog. You wake up at 3 a.m., your sleep is broken, you kind of feel off, and you're not sure. And with these 5 things that I'm going to tell you, you're going to be able to solve that situation. Now, a quick introduction to insulin. One thing that you need to understand is that insulin is different than glucose. And most of you're doing your blood work, you see your glucose levels kind of normal, and you think you're fine, but you're still feeling off. Why? Because we're not diving in the biology and we're not going deep in what's happening behind the scenes. And that's exactly what I do with my clients, and that's exactly what I want you here to understand and what you need to test. Now, what is insulin? Insulin is a hormone released by your pancreas, which is responsible for removing glucose from your bloodstream. Now, what happens is that when you're eating, you release insulin in your body. Now, glucose is different than insulin, and most of the times you're checking your glucose levels and they're normal, but your insulin levels are not. So insulin is a hormone that takes sugar out of the blood. And the problem nowadays is that people have high insulin levels because they are constantly eating, because they're not moving enough, because they have high stress levels, because their sleep is not good as well. And all of this drives to insulin resistance, which is your body produces more insulin than it should. And again, on the outside, blood work is fine, but you feel off. You have brain fog, low energy, and you're kind of not sure what's going on because your glucose levels are normal. Now, what you need to be aware here is that, and might be one of the most important parts of this video that I'm going to tell you, which is you might have normal glucose levels and you might be insulin resistant and you don't know for 5, 10, 15 years. Because insulin resistance is building behind the scenes and it takes 5, 10, 15 years to show as diabetes. Diabetes is basically the last stage of this. So if you can improve your insulin sensitivity and reverse insulin resistance, you're going to be able to not have diabetes. So the first thing that you need to do is strength training. And I know, as cliche as it sounds, you don't need 6 or 7 strength sessions per week. You need 3 hard sessions per week, mostly compound movements, 80% compound movements. Think squats, some deadlifts, some split squats, shoulder press, barbell rows or dumbbell rows, or chest press. So think compound movements where big muscle groups are involved 80% of the time. There's no point in you just doing abdominal crunches on the floor or planks or bicep curls. Of course, it's still activity, it's still exercise, but it's not going to improve your insulin sensitivity because these are small muscle groups. So for you to increase your testosterone levels, for you to improve your insulin sensitivity, you need to work these big muscle groups, because by working these big muscle groups, your muscles act like a sponge. So the more muscle you have, the more insulin sensitive you will be. Now, I'm not telling you that cardio is bad. What I'm telling you is that you need to prioritize strength training. 3 days a week, 45 to 50 minutes, 60 minutes maximum, mainly compound movements. So when it comes to building muscle, super important. Strength training, 3 to 4 days a week. If you're doing 3 days a week, I suggest full body workouts. If you're doing 4 days a week, you can do 2 upper body, 2 lower body, 45, 50 minutes, more than enough. The other days, you want to get at least 8 to 10,000 steps. Ideally, on rest days, you want to increase your step count. The days that you work out, commit to at least 8 to 10,000 steps. The days that you're resting, at least 12,000 steps. Which brings me here to point number 2. You can eat almost everything that you're eating right now. And by the way, don't take advantage of this. What I mean with this is order the food in a different way. And when I say order the food in a different way is what most of you are doing is you start with carbs, right? You have 3 macronutrients: carbs, protein, and fats. When you eat carbs first, so for example, you're fasting for 10, 12 hours, 14 hours. When you start with carbs, you massively spike your insulin levels, and then they're going to crash. Means you're going to stop burning fat and you're going to have an energy crash later on. When you start with protein, you're going to spike a little bit your insulin, but not that much. Besides that, when you start with insulin, you basically mimic the effects of GLP-1, which is you're going to feel fully satiated. If you start with protein, that means you're not going to crave as much carbs later on. So just change the order of the food. Start with protein, fiber, and fats, and then you eat your carbs. You still can eat your carbs, your potatoes, your pasta, your rice, your bread, but you're going to eat just a little bit and you're going to be satisfied. And the problem is if you're eating first the potatoes, the pasta, the rice, the bread, you're going to spike massively your insulin and you're not going to feel satisfied because it's not going to get you full. Start with the protein and fats and fiber. These are the 3 that you want to prioritize when you break the fast or when you're starting any meal. Even if you go outside for a restaurant, start with the protein, leave the carbs to later on because it will spike way less your insulin and you're going to crave way less carbs. You're going to have less calories and it's going to have a huge impact on your insulin sensitivity. Which brings me here to point number 3, create insulin-free periods. Now, what I mean with this is it's very hard nowadays because everything is about snacking, everything is about food, everything is about fancy drinks in the coffee shops. But 1 cappuccino or a flat white, for example, it spikes your insulin. So be disciplined about having insulin-free periods. So for example, you wake up, you don't eat the first 3 or 4 hours of the day, you let your insulin levels drop. If you wake up at 6 a.m., you don't eat until 10 a.m. Let your insulin levels drop, keep yourself in a fat burning state, and then you eat at 10. Again, how are you going to eat at 10? You break the fast with high protein, moderate fat, high fiber, low carb. Think eggs, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, avocado, some olive oil, a little bit of nuts, and that's it. You don't need carbs for the first meal. Keep your insulin levels low. Then you're not going to eat again 2 hours later. First, because you're going to be highly satiated with this meal. And second, because you want to keep your insulin levels low and you need to resist. You need to be able to resist. So try to control yourself, control your mind, be strong, and understand, have certain periods of the day where you eat, have certain periods where you don't eat. So for example, you eat at 10 a.m. and then you eat at 2 p.m. So you give a 4-hour window where you don't eat anything, you just drink water, tea, or black coffee, and then you eat again at 7 p.m. So in one day, you have a 12-hour eating window where you eat 3 times. The other hours, you don't eat anything. You don't snack, no cappuccinos, no flat white, no sugary drinks, no pastries, no cookies, no protein bars, nothing. In order for you to improve your insulin sensitivity, to burn belly fat, to improve your energy levels, to improve your metabolic health and your body composition, you need your insulin levels to be low more often throughout the day. If you can understand this, your body composition will change, your health will change, your metabolic markers will change completely. So have insulin-free periods, commit to 3 meals per day, no snacks in between, and be strong mentally to resist what's happening around you. Which brings me to point number 4, which is sleep and stress. And we're not going to dive here in detail when it comes to sleep and stress. If you're sleep deprived and if you're stressed, you're increasing your cortisol levels and insulin levels. If you fix your stress levels and your sleep, your insulin levels will decrease, which will make you burn more fat, sleep better, you're going to feel better, less brain fog, less energy crashes at 2 or 3 p.m. And how can you fix this? When it comes to sleep, have a fixed time where you go to bed. For example, commit to go to bed at 10 or 10:30 p.m. always. Find a schedule, go at that time. No electronic devices the last hour of the day, dark, cold room, and these are the main things that you can do in order to improve your sleep. I would suggest also magnesium glycinate 1 hour before bed and your last meal 2 to 3 hours before bed in order to facilitate digestion and to improve deep sleep. When it comes to stress management, you want ideally to have some kind of relaxation or some kind of meditation where, for example, you meditate 10 minutes. Now, I know this might seem woo-woo, but meditation can literally change the game for you when it comes to having more testosterone, less cortisol, and better insulin sensitivity. Not just because of what you're doing in the moment, but because it's literally impacting your sleep It's regulating your central nervous system. It will improve your HRV, your deep sleep, your REM sleep, which brings me to point number 5, which is the exact 5 markers that you need to get tested. And I know sometimes it's hard. You go to the doctor, you get the blood work done, and they just order the normal panel and they just order blood glucose levels. Even though that's important somehow, these are not the most important ones. Ask for these blood markers. 1, yes, blood glucose levels. As we mentioned, this is the basic. Everyone will test this one. The second one that you want to track is your HbA1c, which is basically glucose levels in the last 3 months. Very, very important, HbA1c. The third one that you want is fasting insulin, and this is one of the most important. Fasting insulin is exactly what's going to predict your insulin resistance, and it's going to show your insulin sensitivity. So fasting insulin. Number 4 is your triglycerides and your HDL, so that you calculate the ratio. So very important, this one as well. And number 5 is not a blood marker, is your waist circumference. And why is it so important? A lot of people are worried with the BMI. BMI doesn't matter. It can give you an idea, of course, in terms of the proportions of your height and your weight. What you need to track is your waist circumference. So ideally, track this every week or every 2 weeks, every month. Track with a tape, track your waist circumference, because this is the single most important measure that you can make in order to understand if your body is actually losing visceral fat. For example, in 3 months in your fitness journey, you're doing like a lot of different things. You changed your diet, your workout and everything, and your weight is the same. Is it bad? No, it's not necessarily bad if your waist is decreasing, because you might be building muscle along the way. So again, everyone is different. You might lose in 3 months, you might lose 10 kilos or 12 kilos, or you might lose 1 kilo or 0, and your waist circumference went down. So this is something that you want to track, because the waist circumference is exactly what's showing if your visceral fat is decreasing, which automatically will lead to less insulin, less inflammation, and overall better metabolic health. And this is exactly what I do with executives inside the system. We track the blood work, we get the starting point, and then we test every 90 days, and we tailor the workouts, the nutrition, the habits, the supplements according to the blood work that we have. So this is something that we do differently. I'm going to ask you all the blood work, and I'm going to analyze every single marker of your blood work to understand what's happening behind the scenes, why you feel off, why you're getting a plateau, why you're struggling with belly fat. And that's exactly what's going to make you break that plateau and finally understand what's happening behind the scenes, what's happening in your body, and finally get the body and the health that you desire. This was just part 1, where I give you 5 habits on how to improve your insulin sensitivity. There are at least 15 more habits that you can implement in order to reverse insulin resistance. So if you want a part 2, where I'm going to cover 5 more habits in order to help you improve your insulin sensitivity, perhaps boost your testosterone levels, decrease your cortisol levels, just comment part 2 below, and I'll be more than happy to record a second part. We're going to cover 5 different habits in order to help you get to the next level. And in case you want a full diagnostic report tailored to you, we're going to cover all your blood work and see exactly what's keeping you stuck and how you're going to break that plateau. Just head to the description down below and I have all the information about it. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you on the next one.